It's almost here.
In motion is Patton. It's going to be that trap play to Garbarino up the middle. That's a 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Big Elks. Cooper Garbarino, 77 yards.
We're closing in on the start of Big Elk football, which means Big Elk TV will be on the air before you know it.
Wynn and Garza are the running backs. Jones under center. Austin, snap, turn, hand off to Wynn. Jaden piles toward. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks.
You'll be able to watch and see if Coach Maynard's brown and white-clad Elks can continue their winning ways.
Snap back, play action, lobs it toward the end zone. He's got a man. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks. Tucker Garza.
To get your business on the Big Elk TV screen, call 225-9696 or stop by our office at 220 South Pioneer.
If you build it, he will.
It's the Skinny on Sports Podcast with Aaron Cowk.
I throw balls far. You want good words? Data language.
Talk real sports with a real man.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
And now, here's the be-all, end-all, know-it-all of high school, college, and pro sports. Aaron Skinny Cowk with the Skinny on Sports.
We're talking about practice, man. I'm the MVP.
And a good, Monday morning out there, Western Oklahoma. Welcome to the Skinny on Sports right here on 98.1 FM. The Sports Animal. Glad to have you along for the rest of the hour. Man, what a weekend it was. Craziness all over the sporting landscape. Baseball, the fight between Jose Ramirez, Tim Anderson. Have you ever seen a punch land like that?
There's only one that comes to mind.
But Bautista at least
didn't go down.
No, he didn't go down. I've just never seen somebody melt in baseball like that.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the two, like the cleanest. Well, and then, of course, when Nolan Ryan was just dadding up on Robin Ventura. But, golly, it was crazy. And the radio call.
I hadn't heard this. I haven't heard the radio call.
You haven't heard it yet?
No.
I'm efforting. I think I found it. I'm just waiting on the internet to
catch up.
Load it.
Okay.
Yes. It's an awesome. I mean, it is just awesome. So there was that. Your Rangers, the lone undefeated team since the trade deadline in baseball. There's a bunch of teams that are defeated. Like 4 teams haven't won a game since. The Angels, one of them. But the Rangers, undefeated. And look out for Will's Cubs. The Cubbies are coming on 15 of 19. Won the series against the Bravos over the weekend. The Cubs are going to be a force, I'm afraid, to be reckoned with down the stretch in the NL Central. So we've got that. Are we done with conference realignment now, at least for a little bit? After what all happened on Friday, when it seemed like we were getting information every other 5 minutes on Friday during the show, and it went from the Pac-12 is dead to the Pac-12 is alive to the Pac-12 is dead again. And at this moment, I would say it's fascinating to see what's going to happen with them. Only 4 members left to start next year. So how do they do? What do they do? Big Ten added 2, which is Oregon and Washington. The Big 12 ends up with 3 more teams: Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. And just kind of go through that whole scenario and what's next. Is the ACC next on the chopping block? Or is that all just a bunch of blathering down south? And I don't know. I don't see how that happens. But if you're the Big 12, there's already, I saw something last night that San Diego State and Oregon State apparently in conversations with the Big 12. Is that wise? Or would you want to be in all 4 time zones? I get it. Kind of out of that West Coast time zone. We talked about Arizona when they switch around time-wise and all that. But you're really off the West Coast at the moment. San Diego State and Oregon State would change that. Apparently ESPN is a little bit upset with kind of being out of the West Coast time zone at the moment. Or do you just kind of wait to poach some more teams from the East, a la the ACC if something crazy happens, to make the travel a little easier for, say, UCF, West Virginia, Cincinnati, kind of give them some partners on their end of the United States. I don't know. I guess it depends on what you think about the ACC. And then we're finally going to talk about how does this affect, how does all this change the way the 12-team playoff looks starting next year? Or does it? Then figure out how Jared's weekend was. U.S. women's national team. Maybe less talking, a little bit more action. Worst they've ever done by far at a World Cup. They've never been worse than third. And went out in the very first knockout stage. Didn't score a goal in the final 250 minutes of the tournament. Only could beat Vietnam. That's the only game they won. Are you sad to see them go? Or is there a hope out there? I know there is for me at least. There's a hope to get more of the Mia Hamm U.S. women's soccer team, less of the Megan Rapinoe version. Will that change because some of those gals are starting to phase out and hit that? And then also in golf, man, what a crazy day it was yesterday. Bryson going nuts, 58. JT missing the playoff by an inch. The way that ball bounced off the pin. So good weekend all around. 225-9698 is the phone or the text line. That is 225-9698. Give us a call, shoot us a text. We can talk about any of those things. Whatever else might be on your mind, feel free to chime right in. 225-9698. If you're outside the listening area one of these days, you want to stay in touch with the show, you can do that. Log on to kadsam.com. Download the app. Paragon app has it all, and it's free to do. You got radio. You got the Penny News. Big Elk and Paragon TV. Inching closer and closer to the start of high school football as we move. I mean, heck, school starts. School start over there this week?
Thursday.
That's the same thing for
I think most
for right here at Elk City.
Yeah.
I believe that maybe even Raiden started last Thursday.
Really? I did not know that.
So craziness. Can't believe the summer is gone. How was your weekend, Jared?
Busy weekend.
What'd you do?
Well, it started Friday. Went to the city. Katie and her basketball team playing in the MAYB national tournament in Moore, Norman area. So watched her play Friday night and Saturday morning. Then went down to Arlington, caught a Ranger game. Fun afternoon there. Stayed the night in Arlington, came back and wrapped up basketball in the city with Katie, and then came home. So on the road a lot. That was my weekend. It's pretty fun, though. How was your weekend?
Spent it with a bunch of Mackies. It was my wife.
Well, that sounds fun.
We went to Fort Cobb Lake on Friday after work and stayed the weekend. Got back yesterday afternoon and just kind of hung out. I tell you what, Saturday, and I think maybe I noticed it more because it hasn't been this way very much in the spring, even back in the spring. But the wind blew pretty hard, and it really hasn't blown much this year. You know what I'm saying? It seems like it's been one of the calmer summers I can ever remember. But it wasn't on Saturday, and Fort Cobb Lake felt a lot like the Gulf of Mexico when we were at Galveston the other day, a couple weeks ago. I mean, it was, I know Travis and then another guy kind of brought the jet skis around a cove where they put them in. And so they were out kind of in the main part of the lake. And the look on his face was like, the other guy said, if I'd have just sat there, the waves would have went over my head above that's how choppy it was. I mean, you could see, it was still kind of getting into where we were, and we were protected about as well as you could be. But you could kind of look out and see. I mean, white capping isn't even close to describing what was happening. I mean, so it was pretty wild. And then, of course, yesterday, because of that, I mean, you really couldn't get out on the lake much. By the time the evening rolled around, we were able to kind of get out on the boat and go check the jug lines that they had put in the water on Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
But there wasn't, the kids were tubing. I want a tube. I was like, you can't go tubing. It's too choppy.
Yeah, it just wouldn't be fun. Yeah.
So yesterday morning, it was like glass, and so they got to get back out there and do some of that. So we did that. But anyway, no, it was a great weekend. Fun times were had by all down at the family reunion. I know there was tons of people in town for the all class reunion. I'm sure that was a hoot, and got a big time turnout. I saw a bunch of pictures from that. It seemed like it was pretty well attended there as well. So just kind of it's like the last hurrah of the summer,
it really
right?
Felt that way for us. Yeah.
Before school starts, and when I can't wait for that routine. Who's not ready for the routine to come back just a little bit?
You're not, or
I am.
You are. Yeah. I don't think my kids are. We told them, listen, we got to start going to bed earlier and getting up earlier. We got to get back in that routine of things. But we'll get them there, and there might be about a week there where they're still kind of getting reacclimated to it. But they are still young enough to be very excited about going back to school. So I don't think it'll be a problem saying, hey, time to go to bed because tomorrow's first day of school. They'll probably be running to the bed because, a lot of times that's the only time sometimes they see their friends. They play sports, obviously, in the summer, and there's those kids that they play with, but there's some kids that they just don't see until it's school time. So they're anxious to get back and see those kids and those teachers, too. Should be fun. But this weekend did feel like the last hoorah before we get back into that routine.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
It turns out that's the last basketball tournament for this group through this little summer thing that we've been doing. So, like, well, wow, we didn't know it till afterwards. Like, oh, I guess that's it. Okay, now we can focus on softball in school and move forward. So, anyways, a lot of fun though. It was a busy weekend. Felt like I was on the road all the time.
Yeah.
It was busy, but it was fun.
So over the weekend, the U.S. women's national soccer team goes out in a blaze of glory, or a whimper, as it were, as they lose in penalty kicks yesterday to Sweden. They didn't score a goal in the final well over 200 minutes of the competition. And I think there's outside of ESPN, who has just been, I mean, it almost feels like a little bit of a nonstop Megan Rapinoe praise session since this happened. I think a lot of people are okay with it. We had the discussion about, would you root against the USA? I wouldn't go there, but I damn sure wasn't rooting for them.
I wasn't shedding a tear.
No, almost even smiles and claps. And
I'm thinking, okay, will she just go away with her anti-America views? Rapinoe, I'm talking about. Will she just go away now? You see, when she was asked her favorite moment, what was it, of her career, of international play or anything, or something like that? And it wasn't an on-field answer. It was
chanting equal pay.
Equal pay. Go away. Go kneel somewhere else. I truly believe her leadership brought that team down. It weighed it down.
I think there's a lot of people, if they're being honest, her presence, period, was a detriment to this team, because not only is the ancillary stuff around her because of her views and the kneeling and all that, but she's just not that good anymore. She's gotten old.
No, based on, and I was thinking, I'm not a follower of this, of women's soccer. I'm not. I'm barely a follower of men's soccer, but I'm starting to pay attention now. I mean, what got more headlines in the soccer world this week? even this weekend. Messi's unbelievable performance in Dallas, or this? It's kind of, yeah. But I tend to think on the on-field product that the women's national team put out there, yeah, it felt like this was. I always wondered, can they? This is the same thing we've seen 4 years ago, even 8 years ago. At what point do we call them old? At what point do we say that the other one's going to catch up with them? So I don't know. Outside of the political stuff and purple hair and all that stuff, I question the assembly of this team and the higher ups who put it together and went, okay, this is going to work again for the third time.
A whole bunch of people did that too that follow it way closer than us.
Okay, well,
I'm glad I didn't.
And I'm just using just common sense. Like, okay, it's hard to win in any sport. It's hard to win at a very high level in any sport, and championships and stuff like that. But you can't. I wasn't following it enough to know, did they incorporate some of the younger athletes in there, or are they leaning too much on what worked in the past? And you've seen that in other sports and other assemblies of teams. Yeah, it was good then. Doesn't mean it's good now. Thinking in baseball terms, a team that you like, getting a guy that won the World Series 4 years ago doesn't mean he's the same guy that won the World Series and the MVP 4 years ago. It could be a shell of himself. So I think for the women's national team to get back in 4 years to that high level, I don't even know it'll be in 4 years. They're going to have to break it down and rebuild it.
Yeah, I mean, Scott knows more about soccer than both of us put together. Yeah. And he said she had no business being on the team. And I think that is a common opinion amongst the people that are just talking about the soccer and the quality of it itself. The only reason she's on there is because of the stuff from off the field. And, I mean, if you feel about her the way that I do, that thing could not have ended any better. All on her shoulders on a PK, and she's the only person out of 10 that missed on both teams combined. She's the only one that missed. But then to see her reaction to missing, it was kind of like a giggle, like huh, and then the answer afterwards about equal. Just go away. And so, what's amazing to me is how fast her and it's not just her, but she's kind of been the face of it since the last World Cup. How fast they've torn down the reputation of the U.S. women's national team. Think back to 1999 and the way that ended.
Yeah.
And how beloved that team was in America. But I guess you could probably also go back to 1999 and think about how much different America was than it is right now in just that short amount of time. But a big part of the difference is people like her. And so I wonder, do the people at U.S., the people that put this together, do they care? Or are they on her side? Because it does feel like a total reboot is necessary in order for that team to kind of gain back what they've lost perception-wise over the last 4 to 8 years.
Yeah, sports can be, and you mentioned the 99 thing, and again, it's a totally different world now, but you can see that sports can unify. Sports can bring people together. If, regardless of political party, views, whatever, everyone can come together. But on the other side of the coin, and Rapinoe is a fine example of this, sports can definitely divide. And she has magnified that. And it's going to be hard. When I say rebuild, I mean, you're going to have to rebuild that reputation like you spoke of. And it's going to be hard to do that because of her. She has broken it down. And I'm afraid that She won't be playing anymore, but she's still going to have a heavy say of what's being done with this national team. And she won't go away. And people just won't care anymore. Which is sad for women's sports and in general, in my opinion. It's sad because this is not what we should be talking about. We should be talking about this game and the field, what happened on the field and what happened and how do they get better. But here we are just talking about the off-the-field stuff. It's because of her, and it's sad.
Yeah, I just read a tweet that the U.S. women's national team has accomplished something that is truly remarkable, and that is they've somehow managed to make a vast majority of the nation that they represent cheer against them.
Yep.
And the truth of it is, when you saw all the pregame, every time they were on the field, whoever they were playing, the other nation's national anthem was playing, and the ladies on that team were belting it out with so much pride, and ours were just standing there silent. And guess what? That's what makes people not want to root for you. Perfect text. Sam's exactly right. Good riddance. It should be a rule. If you're going to play for the USA on any team or in the Olympics, you have to stand for the anthem and put your hand over your heart. I think a bunch of people feel like that. Because otherwise, for the first time in my lifetime, it felt like a team that was wearing the red, white, and blue didn't give a crap about the red, white, and blue. Weren't playing for America. We're playing for themselves. And guess what? Americans see that. And if there's one thing that can bring together, I mean, think about all the different times in Olympics or whatever it is, brought people together to root for the country. And for the first time I can remember, bringing this group of ladies together to go play soccer did not do that. It brought people together just against them.
Yeah.
Not the way it's supposed to. So I don't know how much heartbreak there is for a lot of people that they don't have to be subjected to any more of that. Man, what a weekend on the golf course. Bryson fires 58 to win Live Golf Greenbrier. Now listen, the Greenbrier was a PGA was in the PGA Tour rotation up until the last couple of years, and we've seen low scores. It's a shorter course. It's an old, you know what I'm saying? But still, I don't care if you walk over here to the park and shoot 58. Firing 58 is unbelievable golf. In 58 with the bogey, he made 13 birdies and a bogey to shoot 12 under par. So he wins his live event. A few hours later, I mean, the drama of, and I think it's because you see this every year. At the Wyndham Championship, there's somebody on the bubble that's trying to get, in the playoffs or what have you. But I think it was magnified even more because of who it was, because it was one of those guys, and Justin Thomas, that you don't expect to see in that position. And, man, when he made that eagle on number 15, it was like, okay, breathing. He can breathe now. And then he follows it up with a bogey on the next hole and gets all the way down to number 18, doesn't hit a very good tee shot, hits an unbelievable – I wish we could have seen a picture from behind the green or a video, to just see how much that ball hooked. I mean, he hit a 70-yard hook to get it right in front of the green. I don't know, the announcers, I wonder if he knows where he's at. He had to have known he was close. Yeah. Now, I don't know if he realized he was literally one spot out and had to chip it in at that moment. I just don't know how – there's leaderboards and there's projected standings all over the place. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he knew – when he hit that chip shot, he had to make it. Or he knew standing on number 18 tee, he had to make a birdie,
right,
or whatever it might be. But for that to transpire the way it did with his chip, I mean, inches. If he just hits it at an inch less in the air, then when it gets to the hole and hits the pin, maybe it's not spinning the same way. Maybe it just wedges in between the flag and the front of the hole. But, I mean, just incredible theater for a guy that was going to finish somewhere in the top 10. But, I mean, I thought that was more fascinating than who was going to win the tournament, to be honest with you.
Yeah. He's taken this the way he's taken it very well. His reaction when he missed, and that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Just drop my club and fall down on the ground and laugh about it. He had a smile on his face. And then you see, I guess, his tweet afterwards. It was fun, and this year didn't go my way, but hey, I had fun playing golf, and that's what it's all about. And he's been taking it in stride and good reaction to it. But it made for great theater. And out of all of it, his grandma was there.
Yeah, I know.
So I guess he goes and hugs his grandma. That's pretty cool.
It was awesome. It didn't work out. It was almost better theater that he didn't chip it in.
Yeah,
because you got to see the anguish part of it instead of we see reactions of winning all the time, but for him to react that way in a disappointing fashion.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool. And then of course Bryson that's just nuts. Man, 58 is super good.
What was his payout? Did you say?
Yeah, 4.
Really?
Yeah, $4 million.
Yeah, I would have You see his reaction.
Phil was kind of gigging him on Twitter because it looked like the jump that Phil made down at Augusta when he won his first major in 2004. And you immediately saw who did it better, like who wore it better, Phil or Bryson with the jump. But now all eyes turn. What does that do? Does that do anything in the mind of one Zach Johnson when it comes to the Ryder Cup picks that'll be coming here in the next couple of weeks?
Maybe.
It's not the same place. It's not the same course. It's hard to compare and contrast. But when you do what Bryson did, and as hallowed as that number 59 is, and then to do even one better with a 58, I think that raises eyebrows in a way that just winning the tournament wouldn't have. There's just something special about doing what he did. And so now you wonder if that's going to affect where Zach Johnson's headed. There's a team aspect about it. There's it's not just about who's playing the best right now. There is a team part of that matters. And for years and years, the Europeans have figured that out, and the Americans really haven't. It seems like the Europeans are a team. The Americans are a collection of really good golfers. Well, this last time at Whistling Straits, when the U.S. just smoked Europe, for the first time in a long time, it felt like there was kind of a change happening for the Americans on that team. And a big part of it to me was it was a way younger team than we had seen in years and years and years. The Tigers, the Phils, those guys were out. The Scotty Schefflers, JT, Spieth, Colin Morikawa, all those guys were in. And so it's a hard decision, I think, for Zach Johnson coming up, because he's going to have to accept the fact that if he takes Justin Thomas on this team and Justin Thomas does not perform at all, then Zach Johnson is going to – it's going to be the only time he ever gets a chance to do this. And you know what I mean? It's all on his shoulders by making what he thinks is the right choice, but also the harder one in actually taking JT. This week helped. Obviously, he showed some form that he hadn't shown in a while. But it's still – when other guys that are kind of in the same boat as him, you start looking at the results and what Bryson did and what Bryson's done at some different majors. PGA, he was top 5. He was kind of around in the U.S. Open, kind of around in the Open. I mean, his form has been better. But to the other guys on the team, would they rather have Bryson or Justin Thomas?
Yeah.
There's
my answer would be.
There's something to be said about that part of it as well that I think, and that the Americans after last time maybe finally understood a little bit better of, gosh, if we're all kind of pulling on the same rope, this thing turns out a little bit better than it does when it feels like it's just guys that are hanging out. But cool weekend, no doubt about that. When we come back, conference realignment. Is it over? How long is it over for? What in the world just happened? All things conference realignment next. It's Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, the sports animal. It's almost here.
In motion is Patton. It's going to be that trap play to Garbarino up the middle. That's a 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Big Elks! Cooper Garbarino, 77 yards.
We're closing in on the start of Big Elk football, which means Big Elk TV will be on the air before you know it.
Wynn and Garza are the running backs. Jones under center. Austin, snap, turn, hand off to Wynn. Jaden piles toward. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks.
You'll be able to watch and see if Coach Maynard's brown and white-clad Elks can continue their winning ways.
Snap back, play action, lobs it toward the end zone. He's got a man. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks. Tucker Garza.
To get your business on the Big Elk TV screen, call 225-9696 or stop by our office at 220 South Pioneer.
The Skinny on Sports.
Welcome back. Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, the sports animal, hanging out on a Monday. By the way, still plenty of time to get signed up for the Western Oklahoma Realty College Pick'em Contest. We've done this for the last couple of years. This year, the prize package has grown unlike ever before. So you're asking, well, what is the Western Oklahoma Realty College Pick'em? Well, it is a season-long picks contest against the spread in college football. We start on the Labor Day weekend and go all the way through the conference championship weekend. The game just picks you 10 games. You decide who you want to pick against the spread, and it keeps track of it throughout the season. The winner this year will receive $400. Cold, hard cash at stake in the Western Oklahoma Realty College Pick'em Contest. $400 for first, $200 for second, $100 for third, and then also $100 for whoever gets last but picks every game. So you don't even have to be good at it. You could be horrible at it and walk away with money. It's free to sign up. I've got the link posted on our Skinny on Sports Facebook page. I'll refresh that to resend that out. ESPN's website is kind of who hosts the game or what have you, but it's easy. If you click that link on our Skinny on Sports Facebook page, it takes you right to our group, which is the Western Oklahoma Realty College Pick'em 2023. Thank you to Tyler Harrison, Robbie Allen, all the gang at Western Oklahoma Realty. People before property is their motto. It's also the group message in the game. So come play. It's literally cost you nothing to have a chance to win $400.
21 entered already. That'll go up.
Oh, yeah.
And you can already make picks for week 1.
You can.
Picks are already up. Picks
are available for week 1. Now, we'll be talking about it all season long. And the good news is I think it'll be just as much fun to look at the bottom of this thing as it will the top. Figure out who can continue to be terrible at it.
Yeah.
Because here's the truth. It's just as hard to miss them all as it is to get them all right. It really is.
It is. I agree.
All right, Jared.
Although I'll give it a valiant effort.
When we left on Friday, the show ended at least. I think we were both. Nobody really knew exactly what was coming with conference realignment. The Big Ten presidents and chancellors were just about to hop on a meeting. During the show, there was tweets flying back and forth, this and that. Then everything went silent for about an hour and a half during that meeting. And then all of a sudden coming out of it, the announcement was made that Oregon and Washington had been accepted into the Big Ten. They were going at a reduced share of the money, but still going. And then that opened the door. Arizona already felt like they were going to be a part of the Big 12, basically no matter what. But then as soon as Oregon and Washington jumped, Arizona was in the Big 12, and heck, by the end of the afternoon, so were Arizona State and Utah. So it turns out that 5 schools was 6 county Colorado that had already left. 6 schools vacate the Pac-12. They only had 10 anyway, with UCLA and USC leaving after this year. And so now we're down to 4 Pac-12 schools. The Big 12 miraculously is at 16, 18 for the Big 10. SEC's done nothing yet. Just kind of give me your overall thoughts about what in the world happened last week.
Well, that was a whirlwind on Friday. It all came down, and the question was, I felt somebody was coming, but then boom, by the end of the day, it was 3 coming to the Big 12, and then, of course, the 2 going to the Big 10. It's crazy. It just shows you how poorly ran the Pac-12 was or is. They did not like the deal. Those schools did not like the deal from Apple TV and all of that. Now I question, does Apple TV go, wait a minute, I wonder if there's any kind of verbiage that says we made this deal with the understanding that we were going to get schools like Oregon and Washington and Utah in this. Now they're gone. You got 4 left. We need to rethink this or readjust this. Real curious what's going to happen in the Pac-12. But all those schools that left, I think, made a wise decision, and kudos to the Big 12. I mean, how many opportunities? There's 2. There's 2 big opportunities Pac-12 had to poach the Big 12 and inflict what's happening to the Pac-12 onto the Big 12. The first back when the mass exodus happened in the Big 12 in Nebraska, Missouri, and them who left. Pac-12 had their opportunity, and they didn't do it. They could have taken like 4 teams from the Big 12. And then when OU and Texas decided to leave, they could have done it again, and they stand pat and didn't do it. So they've kind of, dug their own grave with this, with the lack of being progressive in this conference realignment world that we live in now. So, but those teams that left, this makes the Big 12 look a lot better than what I thought they were when they brought in those first 4 teams last year.
Well, yeah, that's the crazy thing about it is twice, once with and then once without. But back in, the early 2010s, 2010, whatever, in there, the Pac-12 had a chance to save themselves by letting Oklahoma and Texas come into the league.
Right.
And didn't. And so then the second time, if you're not going to take OU and Texas, which there's some back and forth about what really happened back then, if it ended up just being they didn't want to do it, they being the schools, and decided to kind of do what they did. But if you wouldn't take those 2 in the group of teams, then it probably shouldn't be surprising you wouldn't take the others in whatever form that was. But from the one thing that this shows, so the Pac-12 is dead as we know it because they were too hoity-toity to take Oklahoma and Texas in a group of others at one point, and then a group that didn't include those 2 at another point. And the Big 12 is alive, and I think in a position to thrive. Because they were willing to take Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, and BYU. The juxtaposition there is fascinating because if anybody had a choice of, let's say, OU, Texas, OSU, and Tech, or Cincinnati, UCF, BYU, and Houston, you would take the first group all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. And the Pac-12 could have and didn't, and now they're crushed because the Big 12 did. I think that is just amazing to me that that's the way it worked out. So if you're the Big 12 at this point, like what's next? Because it's clear that Brett Yormark is on the cutting edge of that. I mean, he is, you've heard Gonzaga, you've heard UConn for basketball purposes. I think he's one of the very, very few guys involved with any of this that actually puts just a tick, some sort of value on basketball. Mm-hmm. No one else seems to, but he does, and we'll see if he's right about that or not later on down the line. But if you're the Big 12, what do you do now?
Well, you don't want to, stand back and let other schools go to other conferences. He's been, as evident, he's been very proactive in reaching out, gauging the interest of other schools. I just don't know at this point who could that be. I mean, could it be a Gonzaga or a UConn for the basketball purposes? Could it be here's what I think could happen, and I know one of the questions is what's going to happen with the rest of these Pac-12 schools, the remaining 4. But I think we could start seeing a lot more schools being added in. So, okay, you're a Big 12 basketball-only school.
Yeah.
Or there's no value in UConn football. I mean, does Gonzaga even have a football I don't think they do. I mean, but so it could be a different okay, we got our football schools in this conference. I mean, you see it in wrestling. You see it in other sports. I think that's where he might be leaning towards. But for football though, I don't see anyone else. Who could they go get? San Diego State? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, the San Diego State, Oregon State has been... I read this weekend that people put that out there. Then some others from the Big 12 side said, not so fast. They haven't spoke. But a lot of times when that starts happening, then they really have. Or do you just wait? I mean, waiting, there's pros and cons to it, clearly, because if you wait around too long, you get passed by.
Right, that's what I was saying. And then I know there's the question, a lot of these conferences, obviously SEC bringing in OU and Texas, and the Big 10 doing what they're doing, of course, Big 12. ACC, what have they been doing?
Well,
could everybody be waiting, and I'm talking waiting like for years until their deal starts to break down, and then they start going like the SEC. I bet you SEC would have no problem bringing in a couple from the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, schools like that. And I can see the Big 12 saying, you know what, we need to help out Central Florida. Let's get in Miami. Let's get somebody that a little bit more geographically friendly for them, and we're down there on the East Coast, outside of just West Virginia and Central Florida. We get more of that market. Yeah,
all the way up. From the West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF are kind of out there a little bit by themselves right now. Yeah, if you could add whatever, it almost doesn't matter if it's the ACC. That's going to help with that, alleviate that problem, no matter who it is, almost.
In your mark, he would probably want someone like Virginia just for their basketball program.
Well, I was going to, it seems like when you start to hear, okay, Virginia and North Carolina to the Big 10 because of the schools, and the fit, then does that leave FSU and Clemson, anybody else that the SEC would want? But if you're the Big 12, that's fine. Okay, we'll take Pitt. That'll help West Virginia and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Miami, I think Miami's probably a little bit more attractive to the Big 12 than the others because Big 12 has Baylor, Big 12 has BYU. They've already kind of delved into the small private school, whereas everybody else doesn't outside of, I guess, Vandy. But Miami would be probably more attractive to the Big 12 than others. It's just, is it Georgia Tech? Is it Virginia Tech? What group of, say, 4 of those teams, and then all of a sudden you look up and we got like 6 or 7 over here. We got 6 or 7 over here. We got 3 or 4 or 5 over here. Geographically, all of a sudden, that really starts to make a lot more sense, even though it's spread out. There's at least enough in each kind of quadrant to where the travel, and it's not really even football. Football is whatever, but the travel during the week for the basketball teams, for the baseball teams, it becomes a little bit easier because you're kind of more regionalized within the larger of the conference. So if it's me, and I understand the allure of getting on the West Coast or staying on the West Coast if you're ESPN. I mean, I'd read that they were a little bit upset. Big 12, because now Fox essentially owns the West Coast because of the deal that they struck with the Big Ten. And now with USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, the preeminent schools out there, that's kind of shut ESPN out west. So but does Oregon State and San Diego State do anything about that? Not really. It gets you the time zone, I guess. But if I'm the Big 12, I'm focusing more east and being absolutely prepared to pounce on any ACC team that comes up. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, being ready to roll, a lot like what he was with when the Pac-12 started to go away. And then, of course, there's that one last school, and that's Notre Dame. Anybody would take them, obviously. At some point, are they going to have to be in a conference or not? Not so far.
I'm sure they're getting phone calls.
Oh,
Anytime there's conference realignment, they're probably everyone's calling them probably first, going, still no interest, just checking.
Mm-hmm.
You still not yet? Okay, we'll call next week. And there's been no discussion, no rumors, nothing of them through this recent cycle of realignment. You haven't heard anything, and it just tells me they're happy where they're at.
Oh, I think they'll do it as long as they possibly can.
Exactly, as long as they possibly can.
And especially, it got the scheduling agreement, I guess, with the ACC. I mean, they're not really a member of the ACC, but they play some games, and they're, I mean, didn't they play in the ACC title game?
COVID year.
Yeah.
They allowed them.
They allowed them in, but they're really not ACC in football. Now, the other sports they are.
Right.
The other sports they absolutely are in the ACC, but not football. They play, 5 or 6 games every year, scheduling agreement with the ACC, which helps Notre Dame immensely because with the way that everything has kind of transpired, it's harder and harder to get those games because there's fewer and fewer like them. Mm-hmm. No, it used to be, before Miami got in a conference, before now BYU in a conference, there's those games out there for independents to play each other, and those are kind of drying up a little bit. And then with the way that USC has always been a game. I wonder how pumped up USC is about playing Notre Dame out of conference every year when they've got to now play 8, 9, 10 Big Ten games. That may not be quite as attractive to them to play. And, of course, we still don't know what the playoff's going to be now.
Yeah,
how does this affect? How does all this affect the way the playoff? Does it not? The problem is with losing that conference, you know what that does? It essentially opens up the door for now another little guy.
Yeah.
Is it still going to be the 6 conferences? The 6 highest ranked conference champs? Is the Pac-12 able to salvage something to try to keep a seat at that table? Because you would assume that as much as we're sitting here talking about Oregon State and San Diego State potentially to the Big 12 or rumors that are out there, if you're George Kliavkoff, you have to be on the phone. If your idea is to save that conference at all, you are calling right now. You are calling San Diego State, Boise, Colorado State, Air Force, name them, down the line to try to keep that together. And here's another question. Does Stanford even know anything happened yet?
They've been kind of
like, have they just been in hibernation? Them and the Bears, the Cal Bears, are they just hibernating through the summertime? Do they even know they don't really have a conference anymore? Do they have to be in? I mean, Stanford would seem hoity-toity enough to where they would rather be independent than be in that second-rate, quote-unquote, conference.
And that's where I think could happen to the remaining Pac-12 schools. I think there will be a conference of just basketball, like a Gonzaga, Stanford, San Diego State, all those along the West Coast. But then Stanford say, okay, we'll just be independent football. And same with the others too, unless they find a home. I think someone like a Washington State, Oregon State could wind up like in the Mountain West.
Yeah, I think
they need a conference, but there's. And again, it goes back to my opinion of the West Coast and some of those schools, they just don't value football and athletics as a whole as much as other schools do, other parts of the country do.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stanford and Cal are different than Washington State, Oregon State. I mean, I think Washington State, Oregon State would 100%, however it goes, merge with the Mountain West, call it the Pac-12, whatever it is, the Pacific Conference. I think that they would 1,000,000% be in for that. Stanford and Cal, that may be a little bit different because of who they are as schools and just kind of their perception. But guess what? Their attitudes are the reason they're in this predicament right now. Because they thought they were too good. And now it turns out they're not good enough. I think it's fascinating how it changes what the playoff will look like, too.
They're going to have to change the parameters of all that. Yeah.
And it's hard to even think of that right now with the looming. I mean, it feels like at any moment you could see a tweet that Florida State and 8 other teams are leaving the ACC to try to get it to implode.
Right.
I don't think the networks want that. No. I'll tell you why when we come back. Skinny on Sports right here on the Sports Animal. It's almost here.
In motion is Patton. It's going to be that trap play to Garbarino up the middle. That's a 30, 35-40, 45-50, 45-40, 35-30, 25-20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Big Elks! Cooper Garbarino, 77 yards.
We're closing in on the start of Big Elk football, which means Big Elk TV will be on the air before you know it.
Wynn and Garza are the running backs. Jones under center. Austin, snap, turn, hand off to Wynn. Jaden piles toward. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks.
You'll be able to watch and see if Coach Maynard's brown and white-clad Elks can continue their winning ways.
Snap back, play action, lobs it toward the end zone. He's got a man. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks. Tucker Garza.
To get your business on the Big Elk TV screen, call 225-9696 or stop by our office at 220 South Pioneer.
The Skinny on Sports.
Welcome back, Skinny on Sports, 98.1 FM, the Sports Animal. Wrapping up the show on a Monday. Don't forget that Western Oklahoma Realty College Pick'em. Get in. It's on our Skinny on Sports Facebook page, a link to the group. I'll resend that out today. We kind of refresh it. But that's all you got to do is just follow the links, sign up, and then wait till the first weekend of the college football season, the real first weekend on Labor Day, and start making picks, make them all season long, and you could be $400 richer. $400 for first, $200 for second, $100 for third, and guess what? If you're terrible at it, you also have a chance to win because whoever picks every game and is the worst in the standings, they'll get $100 too. It's going to be a lot of fun. It was last year. We ended up with what? We were like right around the 80 mark, I think, last year.
Yeah, we had a lot.
So I would be a little bit disappointed if we don't venture into triple digits this season with that awesome prize pack.
Yes.
Brought to you by both Western Oklahoma Realty and one of our listeners. He does not want any credit for it, so we're not going to give it to him. But we appreciate that. No doubt about it. Okay, so you have not heard
the radio call?
The radio call of the Tim Anderson, Jose Ramirez fight at this moment.
I have not heard it.
You've not heard it. Okay, I was going to see if we had to play any ads. All right, here we go. This is what did I tell you? His name Hamilton was his last name. Tom Hamilton is going to be on the call here from Saturday night. Cleveland hosting the Chicago White Sox.
Head first slide, safe, and in to score is Jimenez. And another hustle double. Right over the bag at first. Now Hosey and Anderson square off. They're fighting. They're swinging. Down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson. Ramirez went in with a head-first slide. Hosey never gets upset about anything. They came up chewing. Anderson squared off. Hosey decked him.
Wow, that is perfect.
I was reading some tweets yesterday of some different baseball writers, and every one of them said no matter what clubhouse they were in across baseball, if they had $1 for every time they heard somebody yell, "Down goes Anderson." So it was making its way across baseball as well. But that's just, it reminds me a little bit of Kevin Harlan.
Yeah.
I think we have that one still. It reminds me a little bit of this one. I think this is from the Super Bowl.
20, 5:03 to go. Someone has run on the field. Some guy with a brawl. And now he's not being chased. He's running down the middle of the 40. Arms in the air in a victory salute. He's pulling down his pants. Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants. He's being chased to the 30. He breaks a tackle from a security guard. The 20, down the middle of the 10, the 5. He slides at the 1, and they converge on him at the goal line. Pull up your pants, take off the bra, and be a man. And the players with hands on hips at the other end of the field are looking at him and shaking their head and saying, why, oh why, is this taking place in a Super Bowl?
Great stuff. Great stuff. No, in baseball, though, your Rangers, man.
Yeah, when they got healthy over the weekend, and I was hoping that they would, the game I was at Saturday night, came alive after getting down 5-0 and win that game because of 3 home runs. One, the go-ahead home run from Josh Young. Sure, it's nice they're winning, but the bad news, Josh Young going out with a fractured thumb yesterday in a win. That's people describe it as devastating. I won't go that far. It's devastating in the fact that probably cost him the Rookie of the Year award. But we'll see how – you got to replace that production. The kid can hit. He can play great defense over there in the corner. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it's not a big loss. And I believe it was Simeon who might sit out for a couple more games, still nursing back his thumb injury. But it's nice. The two big gets for the Rangers, Scherzer and Montgomery, got wins in their debut. Hopefully that continues on the mound. John Gray Saturday night, even though afternoon he gave up 5 runs, but they left him in there, that the trust in him, and he actually got the win because he was in there when they got the lead. It's nice. We'll see if it keeps going. It helps that the Angels are just horrible now. It looks like they've gambled and they're already losing bad. They're going to have to keep Houston at bay. Seems like every time Rangers win, Houston wins and vice versa. So they're just going to be kind of neck and neck right there. And it's going to be a fun, wild chase for that AL West title between those two teams. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But the injury, though, the Josh Young injury, and to me, I haven't seen any kind of timetable.
Yeah, I never did either.
Tells me he's probably done for the year. Hate that.
The one, the saving grace a little bit for whoever doesn't win the West is there's some teams that have fallen apart a little bit that were in the hunt kind of right below there for the wild card. One of them is the Angels, 6 straight losses. They haven't won since the trade deadline. The Yankees have kind of fallen back a little bit. The Red Sox have fallen back a little bit. And so now there's a little bit of breathing room available for one of those two teams. But Texas, kudos to them. They haven't lost the lead yet. When it looked like Houston was just streaking right there. They got close, but they always were at least one ahead in the loss column, or behind, however you want to look at it. And now they're three games difference in the loss column, and with only 50 games left, I mean, sure that can turn around, but still, that they've done a really nice job of kind of just treading water, and then turning things back around, and with 6 straight wins. It's amazing what's happened right here after the deadline. So the Angels are winless since the trade deadline. The Mets winless. Which that one's probably not as surprising because of who they got rid of. Mm-hmm. The Angels tried to do it the other way. Cincinnati wondered what would happen. They just kind of came on out of nowhere. They've now lost 6 straight. Haven't won since the trade deadline. Same as the Diamondbacks. So those two teams that we've been talking about as the surprise teams, especially in the National League, maybe kind of fallen back to the mean a little bit after playing really well. And there's still time. I mean, they're only 2 games behind Milwaukee in the loss column. Cincinnati is. Diamondbacks are in way more trouble, 10 behind the Dodgers, so they'd be looking really at a wild card spot anyhow. But to me, it's the Cubs and the Rangers are the 2 teams that have kind of feel like have taken whatever momentum they got from those trades or kind of refocused them, and they're the 2 that have kind of separated themselves around baseball. Mariners as well. They didn't really do anything. I mean, it almost really was stellar, but they've come out of nowhere, 8-2 over the last 10, won 5 straight. And all of a sudden you look up, and it was the Angels kind of nipping at the Astros' heels. That's been changed. It's been switched around to Seattle again, doing that. So it's going to be fun. The last 50 games. Isn't it a lot more fun, Jared, when your team is
of course
20 above 500 instead of looking at trying not to lose 100 games?
Right. And I've always been a baseball fan, always had my finger on the pulse, but it is fun when your team that you root for is winning and winning in August. And I'm paying so much more attention to it, not just them, but around, what's Houston doing, what's the rest of the league doing. That, I mean, Thursday night's preseason football game completely slipped my mind. You know what I mean? That's because usually it's, all right, when's football going to start? Rangers are horrible. I can't stand this. I need something else. And I mean, Dallas, they play Saturday, right? So it makes the summer a lot more fun when your team is winning. This is a lot of fun. Hopefully they can keep going all the way to October.
It's looking increasingly more and more likely that they will.
Key series for them. I mean, they're on the West Coast, Oakland and San Francisco. San Francisco could be a good series. But the one everyone's going to look at is the series. They got one more 3-game series with Houston in Arlington the first week of September. And that place will probably be rocking. And by the way, that stadium, I recommend it.
Yeah.
It is amazing. And I know it really helps when teams are winning, but it had a full crowd, it felt like. Air conditioned. It was like 108 in Arlington on Saturday, and you felt it walking from the hotel.
Yeah.
And as soon as that door opened, poof, my wife's like, oh, this is great. This is great. She had a good time. I recommend a trip to Arlington and go check out a game.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything but great things about it.
It is a great stadium.
Good stuff. How to close us out for a Monday. I think we've maybe finally moved past the conference realignment.
I think
it's simmering down for a little bit.
I think it's done. Now, next summer, who knows?
Everybody have a great Monday. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Skinny on Sports right here on The Sports Animal.
You've been listening to the Skinny on Sports podcast with Aaron Cow. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to get alerts of when the latest podcast is available. Thanks for listening.
That ball is blistered to right. Way back. Goodbye.
It's almost here.
In motion is Patton. It's going to be that trap play to Garbarino up the middle. That's a 30, 35-40, 45-50, 45-40, 35-30, 25-20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Big Elks! Cooper Garbarino, 77 yards.
We're closing in on the start of Big Elk football, which means Big Elk TV will be on the air before you know it.
Wynn and Garza are the running backs. Jones under center. Austin, snap, turn, hand off to Wynn. Jaden piles toward. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks.
You'll be able to watch and see if Coach Maynard's brown and white-clad Elks can continue their winning ways.
Snap back, play action, lobs it toward the end zone. He's got a man. It's a touchdown for the Big Elks. Tucker Garza.
To get your business on the Big Elk TV screen, call 225-9696 or stop by our office at 220 South Pioneer.